Harvestella, the great game with a bad name. Hey everybody, I'm CephalonKet, and today I want to talk about the game Harvestella that came out recently by Square Enix. I really felt that I wanted to make a video talking about it, maybe let's call it a review, my thoughts and stuff, because I really think it deserves some things said about it. So footage in this video is non-spoilery. I'm only showing the farm and some starting areas. I don't show any story. I'll talk about a few spoilery things at the end of the video and I'm going to warn about it, so don't worry. So I want to make this video because after playing Harvestella to its completion, I feel like the game deserves more attention. Not only that, but the game unfortunately managed to either intentionally or unintentionally make everybody think it was something different than it actually is. Because what do you think when you hear the word Harvestella? Well, first that it's a stupid name, but after that you think, wow, must be a cutesy farming game, right? So of course, people that would buy it purely for that fact and find out that the game's focus is not on farming in fact, so they would of course be disappointed. Or worse, they'll think that the game is about farming and it just does a horrible job at it. So the thing is that Harvestella, and that's the thing that's why the name is so stupid. It's not, Harvestella is not really a farming or life sim, not really. It's a story heavy RPG with some life and farming sim elements. To compare, you know how in Stardew Valley you can completely ignore the main plot if you want and just focus on your farm, upgrading it and all that stuff? You can't really do that in Harvestella at all. In fact, most of the upgrades you can get for your farm are locked behind story progress, which is actually a neat idea when you see how it's executed, but not what farming game enthusiasts are used to. So that's one problem. So the game is actually very strict when it comes to things like this that are the standard in other farming and life sims like Stardew Valley or even Rune Factory. You cannot even have a life partner by design, they're called life partners in this game, until you finish the entire storyline and max out the relationships. Again, locking a main life sim standard behind the story completion. So for example, in Stardew Valley, I believe you can just, focus on the companion, the bachelor or bachelorette you want, you can max them out and get married before you do anything with the story, I believe. And the same happens with Rune Factory. I'm sure there are other examples, but those are the main ones that come into my head right now. And again, when you play the story, it makes sense narratively, right? But not what somebody who just wants to max out the farm and find a waifu is looking for. So yes, like I said, Harvestella is not really your Stardew Valley. It is instead a very story-heavy RPG that has some nice farming and life sim elements as an extra bonus. And those things are completely optional and not what the game wants you to focus on at all. What the game wants you to focus on is the story and its characters, which the game does a very nice job of presenting. The main story is also way more than meets the eye, leagues away from the usual starting a new life on your new farm like you can with Stardew Valley, or just in Rune Factory with a very good story, but with, again, ending up having your farm and all that stuff. It's hard to talk about the story without going into spoilers, but what I'll say is that the story is insane, basically, and I mean that as a compliment of the highest caliber. The game, the lore, the world, it goes to so many different places the more you play. And you do not expect that at all, especially from the first impression you get about the game and, the trailers and all of that. I was astonished by most of the game's storyline, and it comes completely out of left field, and it was fantastic. So I would definitely say that the main story is the game's strong suit without a doubt. The other strong thing about the game is the characters and the quests, not only for your main party, but characters, NPCs in towns that give you some quest lines, that some of them have multiple stages and all of that. Each main character you meet has their own little storyline with multiple stages. I think it's 10 stages to fully max out. And doing their questline maxes out their affinity. Despite some dark moments, particularly in the main storyline, the character storylines are wholesome and some of the more feel-good content of the game. Also, the quests you find in the various towns are also, most of them are really cute. They have a, funny or a happy conclusion, so they're all, feel-good quests. You won't, start crying, but some of them are actually very emotional. There are a lot of emotional storylines, both for the party members you get and for some of the side missions in towns. Unlike, for example, in Stardew Valley, I keep saying that because it's an obvious farming game example, there are a handful of quests in each town and all the quests from your main companions, and that's it. You don't get anything repeatable you can do in the game. So the downside to that is that due to the game focusing on the story so much, the dated models become more apparent as well. The game looks beautiful, like each town it looks unique. The music makes everything fit together. The presentation is beautiful. Each main character has their own drawing that shows up during conversations, and those are beautiful as well. But unfortunately, the character models look very limited, and they don't really have any facial animations. The basic NPCs also seem to have been recycled over and over, so you see the same two NPC models across multiple quests. And of course, this doesn't stop you from enjoying the game, but due to the strength of the story and the quest it has, it makes you wonder how much more you'd enjoy, the presentation and everything, if the characters were able to animate what they're saying. Each avatar, each drawing you see during conversations, it has multiple different drawings, so the expression, so that's a very nice touch. But it would be nice if we also saw that reflected in the character models. And you also get very limited voice acting. The only voice acting you get is during combat. They have, some key lines, and during certain boss fights, you have some lines that you can hear. But other than that, there is zero voice lines. You have to read everything. So the combat of the game is another thing that's locked behind progress, not only story-wise, but character-wise as well. You gain more combat styles as you meet the main squad, and to level up the abilities after a certain point, you have to raise the affinity with the character you got the combat style from. So to make it clear, you start out with your own combat style, which is the sword, but if I wanted, say, daggers, I would have to meet the character that had the combat style of the daggers, and then to upgrade the daggers to have more abilities and stuff, I would have to max out their affinity and then farm a little bit to gain the XP. So raising the affinity is not really time consuming at all. It happens each day. You might get an update on the quest, hey, meet me there, let's do this. And the combat in this game never gets too difficult, so I never felt like I had to grind, which was a relief to me as somebody who hates grinding in other JRPGs or any RPG really. And you gain a variety of creative weapons, each with their own abilities and styles, from the starting sword, which also has its own cool abilities you can get, to multiple different types of magic, and a sniper rifle, a giant cannon apparently, so there is definitely a variety, and it's all fun to switch around and play with. You don't have to get locked down to one thing. You can just on the fly, you can equip 3 combat styles and switch them out even during a single fight, so that's very fun. There are multiple dungeons that you find yourself in during the main quest line that you have to go through, and while some dungeons are harder than others, and their bosses might take you a couple of tries if you're quite underleveled, you never really get stuck, especially if you carry with you some healing items. It's fine. You never really have to worry about hitting a wall, unless you are sprinting through everything and you never fight. And there are also secrets in all the areas you go to, and you can come back when you get the higher level items like bombs to break down walls and things like that. So there are cool little secrets to come back to even in the starting areas, which I found really fun. So another thing I want to point out as a plus in this game is that the soundtrack is fantastic. From the music that plays in the background while walking around in the town, it's unique to fit the town's aesthetic, to the uplifting music that makes your heart soar during key moments. The soundtrack is something that you should definitely have on during your entire playtime to experience all of its tracks while playing. I say this because, for example, now we're going to Rune Factory. In Rune Factory, there were so few music tracks, and there was, for example, in the main town, which just went quite a lot of time in, there is the same track playing over and over and over, and it's not quite good, so I ended up turning off the music. But in this game, definitely have the music on. The soundtrack is beautiful, and it really helps. Even without voice acting and everything, it really helps portray what's going on and the feeling you're supposed to be feeling. It's top notch. And a small final thing that I think is important to be pointed out is that while the character creator is limited when it comes to hairstyle, skin tones, etc., I mention this because I've seen a lot of people complain about it, though I personally did not find it a big deal because it's not the first game where we've had limited character creation in games like this. For example, in Rune Factory, you only have set models, and nobody really, you're used to it in Rune Factory. So at least here we have some more options. But I think it's also important to give credit to the game for the fact that it straight up allows you to pick the non-binary pronouns if you want to. Like you get the option male, female, and non-binary pronouns, which I found really nice. And it's something that I personally haven't seen in many games yet, especially in the games of its type, and in any other game, honestly. Maybe if, of course, you tell me visual novels have been doing this for years, I wouldn't know because I don't really play visual novels. But this has been the first game that I've saw that straight up says non-binary pronouns, so I thought that was a really nice touch. It doesn't change anything in the gameplay in any way. It's just a nice detail, and it's very nice that it's included, so kudos to that. So, in conclusion, before I go into spoiler territory, I think this game is something that you need to experience for yourself, definitely, and a game that deserves to have its story experienced, most of all. It's not a game that you are just ignore the main storyline and try to focus on your farm. No, you will hit a wall when it comes to the things you can do on your farm, because even farm upgrades, they're tied to story progress. So definitely focus on the story, experience the music, experience the characters. And that way you'll have a good time. And also, the name is probably the worst fucking decision they could have made for the game. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, I'll never get over it. Anyway, so now the next session will go into spoilers, and I highly recommend you do not watch the next part. You should still like and comment though, and subscribe if you haven't. I highly recommend you don't watch it unless you really don't plan on playing the game and you really don't care about spoilers. But I insist, if you plan on playing it, please go and experience the game for yourself first, the story, and then you can come back. The game story twists and turns are one of the best parts of the game, so getting spoiled on the story would definitely change your experience, especially as a first playthrough. So with that in mind, let's begin. The story had me flabbergasted personally. I'm so glad I had no idea what was going to happen. So you think the game is a cute farming game that will stay there? No, it's actually about time travel. Wait, no, it's about robots controlling humanity. Wait, it's about other planets harboring a new type of humanity. Wait, it's about a master AI. holy shit, so many different things. You think it's one thing, then another thing happens. It's just, whoa. And it's not scared to like make you think like, oh, the Arya leaves the party and it's actually the final boss. It's actually not the final boss, but it makes it so convincing that, hey, maybe this is actually the end of the game. And in fact, you can get one of the 2 bad endings if you do this. So it's insane. So, when I suddenly ended up in a fucking rundown city of the future, I was biting my tongue, trying not to talk about this with anybody, especially my best friend who brought this game to my attention, who hasn't played it yet. So I wanted to talk to her about it so bad, like, holy shit, this just fucking happened, holy fuck. So yeah, this was the twists, all of the twists were so much fun, especially the first part. You can perhaps you can see some of them coming later once the first big twist happens, but especially the first part when you end up in a futuristic city, it's just so much fun to see and to experience this complete change in what you're playing. You think you're playing a farming game, but then it ends up being so much more. And playing the game for so many hours in your standard fantasy setting, it's suddenly ending up with robots and futuristic cities was such a wonderful change of pace and cemented to me that this game was so much more than meets the eye. And when you think you're near the end of the game, it just keeps going and gives you decisions what to do, and you can get the multiple endings. And then if you keep playing, you uncover leftover mysteries and everything gets answered. And that was great. Everything that you were wondering, like, what's up with that, everything gets answered. The only downside to this I found was that near the final moments, this is the biggest spoiler because it happens right near the end, guys, where your character gets told to talk to Rigaya after you fight Gaia. When you talk to her, she warns you that if she reveals everything, you will probably not be able to go back. So that made me think, oh shit, that means I will get an ending here, and I won't be able to go back and continue playing, or I will get an ending where I'm not with everybody. So I didn't want to get that ending. So I refused her, and there's actually a conversation decision that says, are you sure? And you say, yeah, I'm sure, twice. And then the same ending shows up because of course I was curious after, so I looked up what happens, and you find out that the reason that you have amnesia is that it's not actually amnesia, you just literally have no memories. So yeah, it was weird that the game gives you the option to refuse for her to tell you the mystery and give you the impression that you might get a different ending, but you end up getting the exact same ending. You end up still being with everybody, so I'm not sure what happens there. I don't know if maybe that was a mistake, it's a bug, and you're supposed to get a different ending, maybe one where you just don't show up at the end and you just have the letters of everybody. So yeah, I'm not sure why the game did that right at the end, because it made me miss out on context, and thankfully I looked up what I missed. But yeah, that was a bit disappointing that at least I didn't get a different ending for my trouble. So also, while I understand why the romance is tied after the main story is over, it's actually, kind of brave. The game ties it to after, you resolve everything, so everything quiets down, quietus is gone, so you can settle down. By the time you unlock it, at least for me, there's not much else to do in the game. If also you were doing the side quest while playing the main story, which is what I did. Each time a side quest showed up, I instantly did it. So by the time Braca agreed to marry me, that's the one I picked, I literally had nothing to do. And as far as I can see, I don't know if, you have to sleep for multiple days or something, but nothing really happens after that. They repeat the same lines, and nothing else happens. They just move to your house and you can talk to them more easily, but they say the same thing. So I had, by the time I got my husband, my life partner, as the game calls it, there's you can really enjoy it because there's nothing else to do. So unless you then want to focus on your farm, which I do not particularly care about unless there is an end goal. Not really. It's a shame that the romances are tied so late in the game, like after all of the endings and everything. So yeah, that's one thing that I wish they had perhaps implemented. So maybe you could choose who you were romancing earlier on, and then you can have the life partner after the game ending, like they move in after the game ending. Maybe that would be better. That way, you could also have, because your character becomes very close with everybody if you max out their affinities. So I think it would be easy if you just had a couple of lines changed to have a romantic meaning, and then it would also give you something to look forward to when you actually when you get them to move in, instead of it just being they move in and that's it. I think it would have been nice if they had some romance lines before you get to the ending and before you get the option to get them to move in. So yeah, these are my main thoughts about Harvestella. In conclusion, fantastic game. Please give it a try if you like a strong story. The art, the music, everything, it's awesome. Just do not play it like a farming game. Do not play it like do not play it thinking you're just gonna be farming. No, play it for the story. Then it's all good, and you will probably have a fantastic time like I did, and I really hope you do as well. So yeah, what did you think? Have you played the game? Have you been wondering what's up? Are you disappointed that it's not actually more farming focused? Did you expect something completely different? Let me know below. Comment. You can please subscribe if you haven't. I post videos almost every single day. I stream on Twitch almost every day as well, so you can follow there as well. Comment, like, what else. You can follow on Twitter, all of that stuff to support me. That would be really cool. So yeah, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.